The world of The Last of Us can be seen by many as an ending. An ending to technology, to arts, to civilization, an ending to humanity. After all, that's how most apocalyptic media is viewed, especially when there are zombies in the mix. But creative director Neil Druckmann and the rest of the team at Naughty Dog were able to look past this and instead see how this world could be a beginning.
Now, I, of course, need to warn you here that we will be discussing specifics of both parts 1 and 2, so if you have not completed part 2 yet, I recommend you come back later.
The music of The Last of Us is able to reflect this perspective on the world, a world with minimal technology but lots of heart, plenty of stories, all without employing a major big-budget orchestra like most AAA games like to use.
This is where the composer shines. Gustavo Santaolalla is the primary composer for The Last of Us Parts 1 and 2. He was discovered by director Neil Druckmann after Santaolalla stumbled into the world of film scoring, where he quickly became known for his minimalistic stylings. For the first entry in The Last of Us, Santaolalla used a favorite instrument, a ronroco. In fact, he loves this instrument so much he recorded a whole album simply called Ronroco. It's a beautiful album, and I definitely recommend you check it out if you enjoyed the soundtrack for The Last of Us. So, this instrument, combined with other acoustic string instruments throughout the soundtrack for The Last of Us, give the game's music an almost folky feeling. This lends itself well to the story of Joel and Ellie, two people in a barren version of their world, but spending a lot of time telling each other stories, while creating new ones of their own. The folk tales of a new world. Of course, it's not all so calm and simple. With the assistance of secondary composer Alan Umstead, they were able to incorporate heavier drums and instruments into the sections of the game that are more action-driven, far more tense areas where the music begins to reflect Joel and Ellie's basic primal instinct of survival. Throughout all of this, our bond with Joel and Ellie becomes as strong as the bond they share, the bond that eventually leads to the passing on of a guitar that symbolizes their relationship. This is a whole section of its own, one I will discuss later, but with it, Ellie becomes the carrier of the musical stylings from the first game, the acoustic, folk-oriented melodies.
So in part 2, when we're introduced to Abby, the foil to Ellie, someone who's methodical, strong, and has been training for her objective with a laser focus, the music needs to reflect that.
That is where part 2's second composer, Mac Quayle, enters. Quayle employs more electric sounds and percussion to give the scenes with Abby more of that mechanical feel and provide more tension in moments of action with Ellie, much like the action-oriented music from the first game. But you might not have noticed that, right? The most memorable songs in the soundtracks, the one that you notice while playing, are almost entirely acoustic. One or two instruments, some drums, and added soundscapes. As the songs break away from this and more sounds get layered on, it's easy to begin to phase the music out. After all, there's a lot happening, not the least of which is on screen and may require your own interaction. This allows the player to make a serious emotional connection, and then subtly begin to pull them emotionally in whatever direction the team needs you to be pulled in that moment. But more important than even this is the use of silence. Whether it was the decision of Santaolalla, Umstead, Druckmann, or somebody else entirely, I'm sure I'll never know, but The Last of Us masterfully uses the lack of music to further draw you into the world of already simple sound. Silence, in and of itself, can be tense. It can be scary. You don't know what's around the corner. But the biggest relief of all comes in the moments following the silence, where we get to return to the comfort of the nylon strings.
Of course, The Last of Us utilizes more music than what is provided from the composers. For example, in an immediately iconic scene from Part 2, we see Ellie serenade Dina with an acoustic cover of a-ha's Take On Me.
Taking a song that's normally got such high energy and often quite a lot of meme potential and breaking it down into an acoustic ballad forces a deeper focus on the lyrics.
Of course, we don't know how important it is at the time, but consider the epilogue to the game and then think about the lyrics of Take On Me. It's no better to be safe than sorry, and I'll be gone in a day or two.
I would encourage you to look back on your favorite moments with these songs and consider yourself how they relate to the story at large. Leave a comment with your favorite and try to speculate a little. I'd love to discuss it. Before we wrap up, I want to come back to the idea of the guitar as a symbol of Ellie and Joel's relationship. This, of course, is more tool for music than music itself, but it's still a very interesting thing that I wanted to touch on. Joel gives the guitar to Ellie in a moment that's obviously tense. She has begun to fall apart from him. Joel gives the guitar to Ellie as an attempt to reconcile. He teaches her the guitar so he has an opportunity to rebuild their relationship, which seems to go well until they need to replace the strings. Much like playing a guitar will wear down on its strings, so too does Joel's drive to protect Ellie at all costs wear down on their relationship, until it culminates in a scene where we see Ellie learning the truth of what happened at the hospital in the end of the first game. We don't see the guitar for a bit, but she brings it with her to her house with Dina in the epilogue of Part 2. She's still clinging on to that part of Joel, until she loses the ability to play, and leaves the guitar behind as she goes off on her next adventure, leaving this chapter of her life behind.
The Last of Us utilizes music on a wide scale to give it that cinematic feel that Naughty Dog strives to achieve, while still managing to give it that intimate feeling between the player and the protagonist. And something that's very important to me personally is that maybe it will convince someone to pick up their own instruments, though maybe not the $2,300 replica guitar from the game, and learn it and try to create something for themselves. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Sterling Matthew Oliver. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next videos, and we'll see you very soon.